The last big remaining story surrounding the San Francisco 49ers is regarding star wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who did not show up for mandatory minicamp and obviously has created a continued situation that we've already seen throughout the majority, actually all the offseason, as we've seen two 49ers players get contract extensions in Christian McCaffrey and Juwan Jennings. But as we know, today was actually the last day of mandatory minicamp practices. They're scheduled for a practice tomorrow, but it's probably going to be like a barbecue kind of family day. I would assume that I've seen the 49ers do this in the past. However, Brandon Aiyuk posted this video to social media on his Instagram story saying OTA day 5 to essentially say, I'm still out here working. So let's take a look at what Brandon Aiyuk is doing while he is away from the facility. And as you can see, he's working. He is, I'm not sure what the drill is other than, simulating go routes. It does appear like he is like changing speed at the cones. So there's probably some intricate details that go into what he's actually working on. But I think it's still cool to see that Brandon Aiyuk is out here working. Now, I understand too that this is turning into a situation that obviously we would love to not drag on throughout the entirety of the summer. I think, as 49er fans, anyone who covers the team has seen that this has just kind of become the standard operating procedure for any player who needs a contract extension, is you kind of have to go through this tumultuous time over the period of a couple months to then finally get paid and then have that not theoretically, but potentially disrupt the start of your next season. And I think that's, when you hear fans talk about not loving players holding out and missing training camp, it's because of the fear that they will have a bit of a drop off or a bit of a acclimation period for week one. So I think I speak for all of us when we say we want to get this done. We don't want to keep repeating the same situation, because at what point do we start to point to this SOP, the standard operating procedure, as being just a negative? Because what's the point? What's the point in waiting so long and potentially having uh effects that will impact the upcoming season? If your plans, obviously, there's contract negotiations. It is what it is. And I also understand that deadlines help push these things forward. So I'm not naive to that. And that's kind of why most likely these deals get cut when they get cut, because it's imaginary deadline. The season's going to start. That's a real deadline. But the imaginary deadline is, well, we would like to have you for training camp, even though it isn't necessarily a necessity. But I think at this point we believe it is. So my hope is that we can get this thing taken care of sooner rather than later. Obviously, it's got to work for both sides. It has to work for the 49ers. It has to work for Brandon Aiyuk. Both parties have to come together and agree to terms. And we know that's par for the course. But the biggest thing is, I think, the consensus of people who ingest 49ers content or just love the 49ers are not are kind of over this process. Now, again, I don't know what goes into the process internally, and what they're discussing and all those different types of things, but the hope is that we can just get this thing done, because seeing your star wide receiver, posting in a baseball field while like none of the other guys are working. Like we saw Fred Warner, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey. They're all off to the side. They're not participating in practice. It's because they don't need to. That this is just kind of a this is like mandatory mini camp, OTAs. It's more suited for the younger players to get caught up to speed, doing game plan not game plan installs, but offensive and defensive installs, and getting some reps, getting acclimated, getting them their feet and kind of feeling the rhythm of what a practice will be like in the NFL. So that when they show up for training camp, it's all gas, no brakes. That's what the expectation is, especially for the young guys. So if you're a veteran, it doesn't really matter. But all things considered, again, it's like it's tough seeing that. Like this is a tough scene. It's tough seeing your star players not participating, but just hanging out, dapping each other up, and then you get your star wide receiver away from the team, you know, posting I mean, he's working. I think that's definitely a good thing. And I've said this throughout the process that I do not believe that Brandon Aiyuk is going to take any days off. I don't think his routine from a preparation standpoint of getting ready for the season is going to suffer at all. He's probably going to be just in as good of shape as he showed up the last couple years as he will this year. As we know, Brandon Aiyuk has been the best player in training camp in back-to-back years with just how electric he is and how much of a playmaker and how fully on display that is at these training camps. So again, he's got the same team. He's doing the same things. Obviously, he's not at OTAs and mandatory minicamp. That's a change, but I do imagine he'll continue to work throughout the season. So again, it's I would say the optics aren't the best. And when I say optics aren't the best, I would say from an outside perspective, just looking at this again, everyone I think wants BA to be with this team. No, I guess I can't say everyone. I've seen a lot of comments from people who have kind of turned on BA, which is very typical of the off-season process when players go through contract negotiations. It's like clockwork. Um, but the hope is that we get this thing signed, taken care of, and remove all or any animosity or stressful situations, and just focus on football. I think that's the underlying theme from what I've heard from most fans is, it's just like, let's get into camp, let's get them paid, let's get this thing taken care of, and let's move forward and put this behind us. And I think once and if and when we can do that, that will be a great situation because beyond that, we have no quarterback controversy. We have no controversies. The only controversy that, quote unquote controversy that we have right now is paying Brandon Aiyuk. And when will that happen? Is that going to happen? The questions will remain. Speculation will continue to swirl, all those different types of things. That's what happens when you leave things open ended. So the hope is that we close this thing up and we get BA signed and we can put this portion behind us. But until then, we wait, and it appears Brandon Ayuk continues to work. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.